Hi, I'm Maggie Lake, your host for this special UN Global Compact series, Financing a Sustainable Future, CFO Insights. You'll hear from the chief financial officers who are part of a special task force convened by the UN. They are using their platforms and influence to reshape the future of corporate finance and invest to help achieve the Sustainable Development Goals and build a resilient future. This is CFO Insights. So as the CFO, how have you and your financial team been able to use your platform to advance the sustainability agenda or the company strategy?
What happens to RWE is probably a very good mirror of what happens to the whole economy. I mean, we are an energy supplier that comes from a very traditional fossil portfolio. And our strategy is to become carbon neutral by 2040. And that obviously means huge investments into renewables and at the same time phasing out conventional generation in a socially responsible manner. And to do that, you need large investments. And that's where kind of then financing comes into play. So obviously we need funding for that huge transition of our company. And therefore we have just emitted a new green bond, which was highly successful. We have introduced sustainable KPIs for our revolving credit facility. And we're also financing our renewable projects via project financing, or in the US, tax equity financing. So all these are kind of sustainability linked financing instruments that we're employing.
I feel like all of these sort of innovations and ways to finance the transition are really growing exponentially. What has been the challenge when it comes to communicating to the market and perhaps investors who are newer to this space?
Well, I think you're making a good point. I think it's all about communication. So you need to explain to investors. And I think one aspect that is very crucial for us is if you start from a very CO2 intense portfolio, but you have a clear strategy to phase out CO2 intense generation and invest into the new world, you need to properly communicate that to investors, because what you don't want is that they just look at the status quo. You really want to convince them that you are in a transition and that you apply the maximum speed of transition.
In order to meet the goals by the dates that we've set, it seems it's going to take more. No company can do it alone. How can we incentivize more partnership and collaboration in order to see the pace of change that's needed?
That's indeed a good question. And I mean, when you look at the energy industry, it's probably one of the earlier industries that was kind of forced to enter into that transition. And to be honest, it also took quite some time for us to pick up the speed. And I think by now we are really on their journey and very convinced to move that by maximum speed. And I think the experience we gained on that journey, and obviously also our products, so green power, also hydrogen, are products that can facilitate the transition also of the other industries. And that's why currently we are also engaging with our customers and kind of supporting them with the knowledge we have, but also with our products. And a good example is we just communicated a cooperation with BASF, where we jointly want to build a new offshore wind farm. And then BASF would be the off-taker for that green energy and use that to switch petrochemical plants chemical plants they currently have into electric run plants. So these are kind of the measures we need to approach jointly.
So it's interesting. It's this sort of this cross-industry, cross-customer type of cooperation. What's needed from the public sector then? Where does government plug into this?
Well, I would answer in two directions. I mean, one is obviously we're talking about large investments and also longer term investments. And when you as an investor do a longer term investment, you want to have security or kind of stable regulatory frameworks. So I think it's very key that now the government is kind of providing that governmental frame that provides security for investments. I think the second one is we will have that discussion between kind of the goal to decarbonize, but then it's also kind of the social interest of individuals. but also then the question about how do we keep the industry still in our countries? Because in the end, we don't help the environment if our industries move into other countries. And I think that finding the right balance between these elements, that's where governments and politicians need to help.
What is your message to companies who are trying to make change, but also satisfy their investor base at the same time?
Well, first of all, I would say it's not a contradiction. So I think you can perfectly meet the investors' wishes if you invest heavily into sustainability and transition your business model. And secondly, I think there's also a large chance for you as a company if you really do that transition. So move your strategy towards sustainability, because that opens new opportunities. And as I said in the beginning, also de-risks your company going forward.
Thank you for watching CFO Insights. For more information on the CFO Task Force for the SDGs, you can head over to www.cfotaskforce.org and share your insights on social media using the hashtag CFO Task Force. Don't forget to tag the UN Global Compact @Global Compact. We'll see you again soon.